All right, I'm going to get this party started. Welcome to this week's Bonnet Chronicles Friday edition. I am your host, Kalari GXC, and we have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to get the word out and then we will get this fired up. Tonight's topic is the biggest lies we tell ourselves. And when I say we, you're going to find out that I don't mean exactly we. But, if it hurts your feelings tonight, oh well, not my problem. We really need to discuss this tonight because it has been a vexing week with people who are, for all intents and purposes, still trying to convince me they're my ally as they parachute in the conversations they don't need to, have hashtags trending that spit in the face of everybody else who are struggling and who are literally waging terrorism around our country in the name of white supremacy. It's time to call this out. There's no better place to do it than my own cast, and that's what we are going to do. And welcome to the chat tonight, Music Animal. Welcome to the chat, Respect. I feel like people need to understand something about me. I honestly do not feel things on the same level as the average human being. So when people at me on Twitter, it annoys me, but you're not going to get that level of rise that I think some tried for today. I had already been at 100 with some of the stuff that was going on, talking about teachers who were just trying to educate in the South, dealing with the CRT brigade, getting me upset. And then I seen a really nice post about former President Carter, which I have said in several Bonnet Chronicles. I have a letter that's President Carter sent to my grandfather after he passed because he was a Korean War hero. And then the other grandfather who served in World War II. So I always had a high opinion of President Carter, but seeing that man in his 90s continue to do good things, not because there's a camera watching him, because a lot of the stuff he did was unsung until recently, but because he's just the right thing to do. And of course, white people parachuted into that to try to give their dusty ass opinion on why I shouldn't have said white people need to be more like Jimmy Carter. Yeah, you do. Well, we're going to talk about all of that tonight, but I wanted to start with the story that Philip put out there because it's important for people to see what we have to deal with. Now, Celia Lewis is a black educator. She was asked to apply for a school district job in Georgia to promote diversity, right? White parents chased her out of the town that she got her initial hire in, and then they followed her to the next town. And this is what she had to deal with. All these people rallying against the educator. All these people upset because of supposed CRT. The lies we have allowed a certain demographic to continue to regurgitate year after year, over and over, has damaged our democracy, has damaged our country, and has made generational resentment against people who we didn't have a choice in what you did to our ancestors. All we want to do is live. And then you get things trended like all lives matter. And I tell people all the time, be mindful of the shit that gets you on social media. They are literally doing everything they can to bait us into arguments. They are doing everything they can to get us engaged with them. It's infuriating. And yeah, it is disgusting, Respect. The reason why assholes like that Crowder guy does stuff like that is because it's the only way to keep his name relevant. It's the only way he will get real engagement. This is why I didn't want apartheid edgelord owning Twitter. Because assholes like that want captive audiences. When I seen what Trey Crowder was doing, my initial response was, I should type out a response to him. And I was like, why? He is not worth my time and attention, nor is he worth yours. And if we stop feeding his nonsense and let him become irrelevant, that does more for us than constantly giving him talking points. I know people want to come at him about why we say Black Lives Matter, but he knows why we say it. These people try to act obtuse to our suffering. They try to act obtuse to the way the system is stacked against us because they want it that way. And they've got enough morons like all those parents that rallied against a fucking educator because you can't teach our kids education, that might hurt their feelings. Facts shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings. Facts are here to make better people, but they don't want better people. They want broken cogs to keep the broken system trudging along. And some of you play right into that. We're going to talk tonight about fucking James Patterson because as a writer, because yes, now, y'all, I am a published writer. My e-novel is available. I will have the links in my bio and anywhere I can. I'm going to go to something funny, though, to keep me calm, keep me balanced. If I could find the picture of it. I'll do it later. But the James Patterson thing pisses me off because his whole ideal is that white men are the victims of racism. They're not getting hired in gigs. And thank you so much for that respect. I want to thank everybody who is downloading this novel. I feel so blessed to know y'all, and thank you so much for just supporting this book. And this story means so much to me. But the James Patterson thing bothers me not only as a writer, but as a Black woman, because they do this over and over and over again. This whole idea of white aggrievance, and somehow they are the victims. I said to Greg last night, and I meant it. I don't hate white people. I don't hate most humans. I just don't have any time for y'all's nonsense. If a person shows me within the first few interactions with them that they're going to be exhausting to me, I just don't deal with them. I don't care what they look like. I will not fuck with you if you're going to be a drain on my system. My problem with the whole idea of white identity is that so many of you are exclusionary and then try to act like you're not exclusionary. So many of you will fight to protect that lack of pigment to damn near to death, blame everybody else for stuff, ignore the societal problems that stem from this ridiculous belief, and then act like it's not your fault when shit falls apart. And it's not a sustainable thought process. Your lack of ability to hold the tan shouldn't make you better than anybody else. Just like I don't believe my ability to hold the tan makes me better. And I've been told my whole damn life that it wouldn't make me better. The fact of the matter is some of you benefit from that being spoiled. And you like it that way. And you don't want us to notice that you like it that way. I say it in this photo. I hope it comes up. Let me find that image, because I really want people to understand that for me, being, where is it? Not the side eye. Being in a situation where you've never had the world tell you, oh, it's fine, you don't have to think about things. Having the world tell you, they're going to take that from you if you don't utilize it. Being in a world where your skin color automatically condemns you to people assuming the absolute worst about you is something I don't want us to get to. But your demographic isn't helping itself when you coddle people to the point of infuriating levels in hatred. And all they do is turn around and destroy lives. That fucker in Buffalo was fully indoctrinated by hatred, by the whole ideal that These people get more than me. These people are somehow, they think they're better than us. And it's like, it's nothing about being better than you. And what's worse are those of you that realize that, yeah, I see the bad. I see what's wrong with everything that's going on, but I don't want to lose that bubble. I don't want to lose that benefit. I somewhat agree with a rich asshole like James Patterson, who last I checked is worth millions. James wants to lament about 52-year-old white men. Most 52-year-old white men have disposable income. Most 52-year-old white men probably got property left to them by their white parents, who got left to them by their white parents, who probably owned my ancestors. James Patterson and so many others of you who can be really clearly represented in this picture fail to understand that this system is broken, but some of you benefit from it, so you don't care if it gets fixed. And you don't care who's hurt in the process. That's why that asinine asshole Crowder was able to have something like All Lives Matter trending. He knew what he was doing. He wanted us to argue with him about it. But you know what we need to stop doing is feeding these trolls, and we need to start doing our parts to make things better. Because it's the only way to counteract their bullshit. They want us angry at them. They want us saying things to get our accounts timed out or blocked or, anything to violate for this TOS. And it's funny, they can outright call us slurs. Do these hashtags that they know are just there to spit in the face of the people who are struggling. It's like that asshole who wanted to say her name for a literal domestic terrorist, because they know that we have been using these calls to talk about people like Brianna, talk about people like Ayana, people who have lost their lives to injustice. But they don't care, because our lives do not matter. If all lives really mattered to them, us saying Black Lives Matter wouldn't bother them. But all lives don't matter to them because they have been fully indoctrinated by the cult of hatred known as white supremacy. And it is a cult that is very effective and lucrative to people. Even the people who don't want to fully indulge in it have had its grips. Even people who look like me can indulge in it. Anti-blackness is a fucking symptom of white supremacy. And it was a part of how a lot of black people survived in this country. Trying to look more respectable. Trying not to look threatening or put up with bullshit. It is sickening, the taint that this has had on our country. But what's worse are the people who are trying to still convince us that it's not as bad, as they literally get guns and kill people, whether they're in school or churches, as what happened in Alabama just yesterday. Way to celebrate the birthday with yet another mass shooting. It's just tiring. And exactly, anti-blackness from black people is a fucking market. And we're going to see a lot of them because white people want those people they can trot out and say, see, my ideals aren't bad. One of you's like it. They need their tapioca and burlap. They need no edges, Canada. They need those minstrel Negroes they can pop out to say, see, at least they agree with me. When 99% of us say that ain't it, I think y'all should side with the people who know better. But it's like I said, talking about President Carter today and targeting the people who identify as white people, I did it on purpose. You know why? Because I knew in my heart of heart, y'all are like a fucking train that always comes to the station. The not-alls popped in. The right-wingers that wanted to let me know that it was racist for me to talk about racism. Yous are so fucking predictable. And you helped me prune my Twitter. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to highlight you. I'm not going to give you time, attention, and elevation. What I'm going to do is wait for you to predictably show your ass and then show you the void. And that is how we have to navigate social media. I'm not here to be their mom. I'm not here to teach them. That's something their parents should have handled. I am here to enjoy social media the way it's supposed to. I wouldn't sit in the park and let some racist rube come up and continuously harass me. So why should I allow my digital space, which is a real space where people congregate to share thoughts and ideas and talk together? We don't always have to fall in line and get along, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be disrespected constantly by some white supremacist hit with an American flag emoji, but probably never fucking served in their entire life. False patriots don't do shit for me. I live with actual patriots who risk themselves so that you can get on social media and be a troll. No, you don't. I don't owe you my time or attention. And I know that it feels like they are winning at times because they can get en masse, and this is all they have. That's what I want y'all to remember when you get swarmed by these not-allers, when you get swarmed by the cosplay socialists too. This is all they have going for them, and you should pity them and then move on. Don't keep giving them attention. When we give them our attention, like what Crowder was fishing for, that gives them relevance. This is like a dopamine hit for them. We don't have to keep feeding them. We don't have to keep giving them our time and our amplification. Our happiness, unfortunately for them, is their misery too. So what we do is we continue on. We elect smart people to represent us. We get good things despite their bitching, and we monitor their sex because they're all over the country. Everywhere. There's no place that's safe from their fucking cult-like grip. But what we can do is make it harder for them to get weapons that they use to destroy us. Make it harder for them to be openly, loudly, as they are, bigoted. Instead, we're busy elevating people who only want to push contrarian stuff, and that's got to stop too. My timeline has been being pruned, y'all, and I'm not even joking about that. I don't want to see people who are the Dems are going to lose in this midterm. No, they're not. People are going to vote. You know how many of us lost family? Seriously lost family and friends to COVID? How many of us still have people that survived it but are struggling with long COVID? Every time I think that I don't want to deal with shit, I remember that I'm still here and I'm lucky to be here. Everything I've pushed for these last few months especially, instead of letting it bear me down, the constant reminders that they're not here so I have to keep going for them is what motivates me, and it should motivate you. If you are still here and able to, we owe it to the people who didn't know, because we had idiots who said, oh, COVID's not airborne. You don't have to worry about it, because they thought only black people were going to die from it. And sadly, a lot of black people did die from it. A lot of our elders who were in homes that were barely taking care of them well in the first place died from this shit. Buried in mass graves yet again. The second time in my life, I've seen people close to me put in a fucking mass grave in the ground. And I'm not okay with that. And I refuse to let people who will allow this kind of ineptitude take control of our government ever again. And you need to be with me if you hear my voice on that. And all it takes is bare minimum political investment. Know who's running, vote for them, and make sure that they're willing to do their fucking job. But we just want to play games, and we can't afford this. And it is a luxury that a certain demographic leans into because you think y'all are going to be all right no matter what. And Trump, if anything, should have showed you that's not the case. Nobody was safe under him. Not even his own. He doesn't care about anybody. Yet y'all have been sold. I got people close to me even that still, for some reason, believe that this man was somehow railroaded. The big lie they tell themselves is that somehow this election where 80 million more of us voted against him was stolen. There was no theft. And the same shit played out in 2016 with a certain far left independent senator. You never see candidates of color, except like really young bucks, because I think there was this young guy in South Carolina trying to pull that shit. It's a childlike mentality that gets away with this, but it's very rare that black politicians ever pull that "I was robbed, the thing was stolen," even when there's clear evidence. I look at what happened in South Carolina between Harrison and Lindsey Graham. There is a good enough case to believe that that election was not on the up and up. I'm full on convinced, especially after there's recordings of Lindsey talking about we need to fix this for Trump, that his election wasn't the way it should have been. Jamie Harrison didn't go on talk shows talking about I was robbed, this was rigged. No, he kept it pushing. And now he's leading the DNC because that is what you do. But we could tell the children of the world who aren't told no. The children in the world whose moms let them act out because, I can't discipline my child in front of everybody. That's just not the way. The people who have always been catered to in our society are destroying our society brick by brick. And they want to keep enough of their own dumb and Bible thumping instead of reading, because they know collectively they can keep the wealth that way. And it's like I said on Tuesday, for some reason our society has this structured power through wealth. And the people who see things for what it is, they don't want to change it. They want their peace. And they are the most dangerous right now. They don't care who's indoctrinated. They don't care how many school shootings. They don't care how many tiny coffins we put in the ground. All they want to do is hold on to that power and exactly respect. You can tell who didn't say no. And welcome to the chat, Terry Antico. I doubt Kemp won. Kemp pulled so many shenanigans that made my blood pressure. He makes me wish I'd stayed in Georgia long enough, but I probably would have got lynched. And I don't say that lightly. It is just how disgusting they are down there when it comes to silencing voices that make sense. Kemp was Secretary of State and in charge of election stuff. He should have recused himself from that position and did not before he got elected. The fact that Georgia allowed his shenanigans to go on is shameful, but ballots for Asian Georgians were thrown out, and black voters went through hurdles just to vote. Kemp is a fucking menace, and that is why I told y'all, and I'm not going to stop telling you, if you are a white Georgian Democrat, you have to turn out. They aren't going to expect y'all. That is why we need yous. You want to jump into our mentions to not all. You want to jump in our mentions to get pats on the head for bare minimum allyism. But what we need you to do is turn out and cast them ballots so that assholes like Kemp, assholes like DeSantis, and all around our country lose their ability to fuck us over. Because I want to remind all of you, as you want to heap all the problems on this current administration's lap, forgetting all the mess that they are still currently clearing up and decluttering from 45, that we need solid late state legislators to make anything better. If you are people who have lost, or even if you hadn't lost, but you're fearful that you might be next, that should be enough motivation. And if any primary numbers, except for Clyburn, who kicked people's ass, I'm so proud of the people who turned out for Clyburn's primary. But other states have awful turnouts because some of you are still not taking the shit seriously. And I know that you are the same people who are on social media bitching about lockdowns, bitching about having to protect yourself from this pandemic. You're fucking entitled, and your entitlement is costing us. And it's all fun and games until it's your neighborhood under high alert because of an active shooter. Until it's your rights being restricted. We can't afford for these self-centered ideals anymore. They're not sustainable. And too many people are still making their name off of riling us all up. Still trying to act like we don't see who's lived life on easy button mode. In gamer terms, there are things called newbie, intermediate, hardcore. Anybody black has lived life on hardcore mode, whether they want to accept that or not. Even the ones who think they're acceptable by conservatives and whites. We have navigated this world that hates us just for existing. Then you've got intermediate, POC, who think they can pass. POC, who think they're the model of citizenry. POC, who think they're white. They're intermediate because they can crisscross. They know the brunt of racism, but they think they can be just adjacent enough and they're useful enough to certain white people. So they'll play the field and switch it back and forth, and they both like to harp on the fact that those of us who have lived hardcore mode don't have it as bad as them. And then you've got fucking easy button life mode. Like legit, the world caters to these motherfuckers. And yet they're still angry. They're still fearful of everything and everyone. They go into libraries and harass people for daring to have a pride display because they're so afraid, heaven forbid, their children grow up to feel secure in themselves enough to love who they wish to love within reason. And it's all about control. Because we have a population of over 1 billion people, we don't need any more broodmares. But they're still trying to raise young white girls into believing that's their lot in life. No, don't bother to be smart. Don't bother to educate yourself or have your own ownership. We just want to pair you with some 60-year-old when you're 14 so that you can pop out a bunch of fetal alcohol syndrome type babies for him. That's the lot they want you to have in life. And that is why so many of them are fighting hard, because there are a lot of white women that are saying, no, thank you. I don't want that. And I don't blame them for not wanting that. My ancestors didn't want that. We didn't have a fucking choice in the matter, though. That's why you see so many people of African American descent that have distinctively mixed features. So many of us that have mixed up genetics because they didn't give us a choice. And now that we've had a choice for years now, oh, they don't like it. And they are emphatically equate inequality to their own oppression. That's why you got assholes like Patterson again, giving these think pieces about how white men are somehow the new victims of racism. From who? Who's stopping white men from getting work? No one. Who's stopping white men from writing every fucking popular literary book has been done by somebody white? The few books done by people of color, if they're not made into a movie, have you heard of them? Seriously, it is infuriating to me as a writer to have to listen to somebody who literally had a leg up simply because of the color of his fucking skin, talking about how hard it is for 52-year-old white men. If you're 52 at this point and a white man and you can't get work and you're out of work, you need to blame the system that didn't educate you properly. But it is not the fault of people clamoring for writing that where they can feel seen. Diversity isn't the enemy. But if you ask people like James Patterson, it sure as hell is. How dare we make room for people who look like us? How dare we make scenes and shows and scenarios where we feel seen? Because they want the world to only look and act like them. They only want aspects of us, and it's tiring. Y'all love our music, our food to a certain extent, not too spicy though. Aspects of our culture and personality that you can mock and parody, and we're funny enough, can throw a ball hard enough, can run fast enough for you, then great. But don't let us be intellectual. Don't let us want to do stuff within our communities to make things better. That's when we really become a threat to your ideology. And believe you me, we are a threat to their ideology when we say we want better for everybody. I don't have to like everybody in this country to want everybody in this country to benefit from clean water, from actual education, from not having to struggle unnecessarily. As I wrote my current novel that I hope y'all that have downloaded read and love, and I know it's going to take time. It's a lot to take in. But one of the things that I realized that I wanted in this story were things like universal internet. No matter where you go, you're able to connect without having to fucking break bank. A job system where you did the job, things were taken care of. Yeah, there were still issues because I wanted to be realistic about humanity and greed and what issues will prop up from that. But some of the things that I felt could be done should have been done already here in this time, in this reality. But it's not, because we still allow greed to be the biggest freaking arbiter of everything we do. Welcome to the chat, aggravated proctologist and G. Feldman. It's just, it's infuriating to me the way our system is so set up. And the whole Herschel Walker thing trips me out because he's just another product of somebody who found lukrativeness in throwing his hat with the conservatives, because they elevated him most of his life. That jock lifestyle is no joke. They will treat you like a fucking king. It don't matter if you're dumb. It don't matter if you have any real skin in the game for your people. You will be trotted out to say what they want. And Herschel Walker is a perfect puppet for the Republicans down there. That's why y'all shouldn't vote for him. You have a decent combo with Warnock and Ossoff. Don't let Herschel Walker even be a distraction anymore. The man wants to rally against black families. Now fathers need to be there. Bitch, you're not there for your kids. We just found out you have 4 fucking secret kids. You're not there for your children. You got an obviously openly gay son who thinks that we don't know, who is gay bashing. Like, Christian, get help. Go get some therapy, figure your shit out, and be loud and proud. But be educated and proud first, because your ignorance makes me sad. And the fact that I share the same last name with you makes me happy that eventually that won't be the case anymore. I never wanted to change my last name before, but my ex wasn't interested, did not take his last name. Found out that I probably wouldn't have mattered anyway because of the bigamy stuff. But when I say that my current partner, I will be taking his last name, I don't say that lightly. I'm tired of dealing with trying to hold on to a legacy that really wasn't my family in the first place. And that is the reality of being African American in this country. My last name is probably tied to ownership to a plantation. And it sucks. So if I'm going to deal with having a last name, it might as well be one from somebody I love and something I can proudly say is my last name anymore. And I know a lot of people who have struggled through that. A lot of people who just want to get rid of it altogether. They won't offer us reparations to repair the damage. They're literally profiting off of Juneteenth now, which is, when I read the article right before I started the Bonnet Chronicles, I was like, nothing's sacred to these people. These are the same people who make jokes about things like Kwanzaa, but then slap it on a card and charge you $12.95 for it. They will profit off of our stuff and then shit on the communities. They will make money off of shirts with Juneteenth and allow areas like what happened in Buffalo to continue on, where food deserts are a reality for our children. And it's got to stop. And while I do believe this administration is doing all it can, they cannot do it alone. This is a state by state issue. And too many people, they don't want to think about what they can do for their state. They don't want to think about what they can do to help their fellow people, and it's got to stop. And thank you so much, G. Feldman. I honestly struggle with it because I used to love being called Walker. And I don't hate the whole ideal of the name, because I'm always going to think about my grandfather when I think of his last name. But I feel like everybody I've met that was related to me, and a few people that I have that were, they just don't make me want to associate with them. And when you think about guys like Herschel Walker, who had the ability to be better people, he had an amazing talent in football. He was a hero to a lot of people. And he ends up being just another idiot who will do and say whatever he can to hold on to those little bits of power. It's sad. But in reality, I realize that he's just doing what he can to survive. Doesn't mean I gotta like it, but I'm definitely gonna call it out. And I feel like he's wasting Georgia's time even running for anything. Because if anything, this is the year of finding facts. And it is way more lucrative for the business model of newspapers to have a dirty bird like him running, so that they can constantly run pieces about his nasty, sordid life. And while he might still have some football fans that will go ride or die for him, he don't have the black vote. So I don't know why he's wasting Georgia's time, but I just hopeful that turnout will show people that they want Reverend Warnock instead. And we've got to worry about things like gerrymandering. There are a lot of things on the ballot that people don't pay attention to. Measures that could allow things like the some people who are supposedly confident in their being straight, they are hyper focused on the LGBT, like to ridiculous levels. I don't think about anybody who isn't in my personal relationship sphere in that way. I don't care. I've never been that person. Yet these people who swear on a Bible that they're straight and narrow as an arrow care so much about what two grown-ass people are doing in their loving relationship, and it's always about the sex with them. They're like super focused on the sex act. And it's like, if you're that confident in your straightness, what two actual confident in their gayness people do is none of your business. You're not that confident. And like I said, they're always angry. They're always willing to destroy. And they don't appreciate the true gift that we got here, which is life. And when you tell them that, you're not met with clarity at all from these people. Because they have been full on drinkers of this toxic garbage Kool-Aid of white supremacy far too long. They don't care. You will get met with no, you're talking bad about me. You're the one who's racist. Like, this today was just a prime example of it. You had this man jump into my friend Terry's thing about how, anybody who voted for Trump is responsible for Trump, even black people. Less than 1% of my demographic willingly voted for that man. 3% of black men voted for Biden? 91% of black women voted for Biden. This was not a black person's problem. Exactly, aggravated. They are almost always, every time there's a scandal, whether it's a Tinder scandal, whether they are literally found in parks and other recreational things in compromising positions. It's just always the most abusive fucks that they constantly come out with, oh, we got to worry about our children, as they traffic children like Matt Gaetz. We got to worry about our children as we want to attack laws against the age of consent in places like Tennessee and make child brides, because it's about control. And we have to stop allowing them to control all the narratives. Because it's like another lady said on Twitter. She goes, I've been in writing since the 1970s. I was working in corporate. This whole idea that white men are the victim of racism isn't new. Is what they tell themselves as they literally hurt people to try to, I don't know, mentally cushion themselves from their awfulness. But to me, I feel like they're just playing a game. They know they're the aggressors. They know that the majority of the people who control the wealth and power look like them. They also know that not all of them can do that. So they keep a certain subsect of them stupid and perfect little cogs in the wheel by promising them this great afterlife. And they tell themselves, on top of that somehow they're the ones being discriminated against. Because some of those rubes that they have literally, by denying them proper education, by denying them access to things that they get automatically for being wealthy, they have convinced themselves that somehow they are the victims of discrimination. And you can't write bigger bullshit than that. And this lie permeates, it festers, it creates radicalized idiots who are tired of their rural rot, grabbing a weapon and ending innocent people's lives because they're angry, they're not educated well enough, they're indoctrinated by other dumbasses, amplified by the internet, and it's a fucking toxic cocktail that we need to start taking seriously and preventing. And they're not just targeting black people. They're targeting the LGBT. They've been targeting Asian people because their dumbass former president 45 wanted to call COVID a certain, I'm not even going to repeat what he called it because it was racist and ignorant. And Asian Americans have historically gone through some awful shit in this country. And this isn't to give them all a pass because some of them turned around and still kick black Americans in the ass. I can be real about Asian hate not being okay, but also real about how they've disrespected people in my community constantly as well. And we can't even begin to heal those wounds because we're all still trying to survive some crazy ass white kid with a gun. But I want our communities to be able to speak to each other one day. Seriously, look at each other and talk to each other as the human beings we are. But we can't even get there because, like I said, we're both trying to navigate and survive white supremacy. And that is where it comes down to the people who are white, who are sick of this. And I don't just mean arguing with people. It's real easy to say argue with your kin. But you're not dealing with that level of thunderheadedness. So what I tell people now is, no more fighting with people who you know are closed-minded. You can't change somebody who doesn't want to change. But if you see what their ideals as bad, if you see fellow human beings as that, you need to constantly remind yourself of that and be better. They might not like it. They're more than likely not going to like it. But you need to stay true to yourself and true to the cause of being better for humanity. We need to raise less Kyle Rittenhouses and more people like that young lady from Stoneman Douglas, Emma. We need a world where our kids feel safe They don't know what the fucking active shooter drill is. And we need a world where a kid can grow up and find potential no matter what they look like. And we can get there. We're not there currently. But I don't believe that we are so far away from those ideals anymore. Years ago, I could have been turned to a vile person by the hate that I was around. Finding out somebody wanted to literally Molotov cocktail the place I was living in because he didn't want our family there. It could have twisted me, but that's exactly how easy hate is. And I realized that it was more defiant of me to continue to love and be and just live my life as best I can than to give in to those ridiculous impulses to, oh, I don't like this person. And if a person thinks that me talking about racism makes me racist, what can I do? What can I say to somebody that wants to use that kind of logic? You don't argue with those people. You don't let them wear you down with their circular logic because it's not real logic. And it's just circular idiocy, actually. And that's all they want to do. They want to derail the conversation, make it about how they feel. And you know what? Thanks for wasting my time. I'm going to ignore you now. That's the way we have to start treating these people. Because as long as they know they can get a rile out of us with their antics, they keep those antics up. As long as they know that they can parachute in and say things like, well, everybody's to blame for this. Sir, ma'am, we didn't ask you for that. And then when we push back, oh, you got a chip on your shoulder. And it's like I told that one white dude that was bothering Leah. Yeah, black women have earned to have any chips on our shoulder, and you better hope we never cash those chips in. Years of putting up with disrespect from all fucking sides. So that when we share facts, receipts-driven facts a lot of times too, just to have one of you people jump into our threads to say, well, I feel like you're generalizing me. I feel like you're putting a spotlight on my demographic, and I don't know how to feel about that. You know how you should feel about that? Mind your business. Unless I've directly called you out by name, I don't give a right fuck about how you feel about me saying the word white person. But your identity is so tied into it that you can't even see how idiotic it is. You just talk about black people all the fucking time. I've been here 45 years now since yesterday. I know what it's like to be in the monolith. I'm not here saying not all black people. Especially after the Herschel Walker thing. No. There are some black people that you really, not all skin folk is your kinfolk. But if I jumped in every time somebody even remotely said something stupid and ignorant about black people, I'd be exhausted. Probably in the back of the mental hospital. It ain't worth it. Pick your battles. Not everything on social media is worth fighting over. And some people, that's all they're there to do, is to stir up and see what they can. And you've got to think on the level of psyops do exist. And I'm not saying this to be a conspiracy theory. I'm saying this as they have literally found people who not only monitor algorithms, but they monitor what's trending, what gets people. That elephant story is going to be all over, and figuring out ways to exploit that. And I wouldn't be surprised if elephant is on ballots this fucking midterm because people are idiots. But they look for what we are talking about, what can rile us up. And some of you fall right into that trap. And we've got to stop being so easily manipulated. A lot of times I'll log on to Twitter and see somebody purposely shit stirring, and it's like, you know what? Not going to give them the time or attention today. I'm in a good place, and I want to stay that way. And then there are a lot of times now I just don't log on at all anymore. Because as much as I like socializing, as much as social media is really the only social aspect of my life right now, because I'm still not trying to get sick, there are times where it becomes too toxic. And when it's too toxic, turn off this device. We have to stop making arguing with people such a big part of our lives. Being that stressed out is not good for anybody. Exactly, Tifa. There are a lot of people. If that was the case, if the whole Coliseum thing was, I'd be okay feeding a bunch of people lines. And welcome to the chat, Glass Jaws. I just think our society benefits when we call out this lie. Society benefits when we show the ugly that white supremacy has gripped on our society. But we are going to feel pushback, not only from the fence sitters, who really trouble me, because they'll put BLM in their bio, they'll act like they're an ally, they'll tell me they're an ally in one breath. But when I ask them to organize, when I ask them to do their part to help, crickets. Because they still think they benefit. They think the crumbs that they get from white supremacy is enough, and we have got to start showing them that it's not. The only way things are going to get better for all of us is if we stop letting these harmful, hateful people call all the shots. We stop letting them control the narrative of who's better. Let people prove their worth. I don't trust everybody I don't know. I'm from New York. That place was fucking psycho when I grew up. I love New York, but I don't love all of New York. And I developed that way because of all the stuff that happened to me. Every fight that I had to get into. All the fucking stuff I survived in that place. I carry that with me. So no, I don't automatically trust people. But what I don't want to do is fall into the pattern of, I don't like or trust that person, they need to suffer too. That's a bad mindset. And there are way too many people that carry that mindset and think we don't see it. We go rallying around with fucking Confederate flags over 100 years after they lost that fucking war. What's that about? You'll tell me to get over myself talking about fucking reparations. You literally wear a symbol of betrayal to our country and talk about, oh, I'm just honoring my heritage. Sir, ma'am, you might put that bullshit over on rubes like you, but I'm educated. And I realized long ago what that state rights bullshit was, what that symbol means, and seeing it even far up here in Michigan pisses me off because y'all don't even fight on that side. But you're fighting for that ideal, and it's not okay. Because I don't know what you've been told in your little sect, and your little pubs, and your little sundown towns about this New World Order shit you think we don't hear about. They're literally writing documentaries about you assholes, so we hear you, we see your little manifestos. But we aren't the same as the ancestors that you dragged over here off of ships. We were born and raised here. We were forged in the fucking fires of dealing with your fuckery. And we will fight back. I don't know what you think about how docile black people are. I don't know where you think you would take us in this weird new Gilead type style world you think you're going to cultivate with your whiteness. But black people aren't having that. We are educating ourselves. We are educating our kids. We are going to do better with or without you. Don't make it without, because trust me on this. We're going to keep it moving because we had to. We've always had to. And we are not going backwards to any days where you own us. Because I feel like that is the goal they're trying to push via these weird laws trapping women into being baby incubators. What can they push that they can legally allow before they start human ownership again? And if you don't think the path of that is via women, you're wrong. It's always been the way we treat women. It's always been the way we look down on anything that has to do with feminism in general, and it's got to stop. And it is like the easiest, most pervasive hate throughout humanity. And I want people to see it, call it out, and stop it. But I also want more women to realize we don't deserve this, And we don't have to take it. For every dude out there that wants to be like that, there are another 10 that aren't. But so many women, especially white women lately, have been conditioned to believe that that weirdo wannabe alpha macho bullshit is manhood until they get stuck with them, especially get stuck with kids with them and they're miserable. You wonder why divorce rates are high. It's not because, oh, women just aren't trained well. It's because you get married to these meatheads. You realize that they're too plump chumps. They don't want to help take care of anything. And you don't want to be stuck the rest of your life with that shit. Nobody wants to be chained to that fucking life. So instead of raising the society to constantly try to push towards that, we all need to do better. And I really want people to start seeing the root of the hatred. Control. We've given them enough control. We've seen what that control does. We've seen the life cost of that control. So it is on us to stop allowing them. And it doesn't take much. That's the thing that bothers me about Democrats right now. You have these people on social media talking about, oh, the Dems are taking the L. They're really not. We have gotten historical things passed. The infrastructure bill. They targeted predatory loaning in colleges and everything else. We have an administration doing the fucking work. They're just not on Twitter asking for kudos because they're doing the work. So what we need to do is support them. Don't play the game of, well, I'm not going to worry about it. What's the damage? The damage is lives lost because we couldn't pass gun reform. Lives lost because another cop emboldened with a fucking badge and not much sense in their brain decides to choke out another person. Kneel on their backs until they can't breathe. Go into their house with a no-knock warrant, shoot them up. Or literally kidnap them like they did Elijah McCann. Edwin McCann, I'm sorry. Was it Edwin or Elijah? I get his name mixed up when I'm upset. He was a young man with autism. Played violin for cats. And they kidnapped him, as far as I'm concerned. He was walking home. They didn't need to escort him anywhere. Injected that baby with ketamine, and he died. It's a fucking murder, and his killers are still not doing any jail time. That is a reality. That is why we say Black Lives Matter. A friend of mine who does history updates reminded me of George Steiny. One of the things that I like to do on my birthday is doing this day in history. And in 1944, a 14-year-old was hung, well, electric chair. It was electric chair for a murder that he didn't commit. But he told the white people there that he had seen the two little girls that they found dead in the ditch, and it was enough for them to go, you know what? We're not going to investigate this. We're not going to figure out who really did this. That boy's black. He had to do it. He was scared, interrogated for hours by angry white guys yelling at him, probably hitting him. And they said he confessed, but he never signed anything. And at 14, on my birthday in 1944, that child was murdered by the justice system. The people who try to rile us up by rallying against Black Lives Matter, they don't have the ties that I feel when I hear about George Steiny. They were the people who murdered George Steiny. So I can't keep letting those people angry me up. I can't keep letting those people get the best of me, because that's all they want, is to destroy all the joy and happiness we have, and we can't let them do that. Guys like that Crowder guy makes millions off of being like this. We can't keep letting him be relevant with his hatred. And the best way we can do that is for us to be better. For us to work on any prejudices we have. Learn things. Be open to realize something that we used to be okay with isn't okay. And just listen sometimes. I don't jump into people. There are so many people I follow that I love and respect that I just let them talk when they're sharing their truth. Because it isn't my place to step in. And sometimes they just want to be heard. And that is the biggest part I can tell anybody seeking to be an ally. Just listen. Weigh in if you really feel you have something to add. But sometimes know that, especially when a person's venting about pain, whether it's racism, misogyny, somebody who's dealt with actual homophobia. And I hate using the word homophobia, but until we find a better, I'm trying to find a term that just outright calls it what it is, which is just bigotry. But it is hatred. Sometimes we're just sharing that to get it out of our system, and we don't need you parachuting in to get a pat on the head because it's not you. Sometimes the best thing you can do for people who are hurt and as an ally is to just be there. Another thing that I want to wrap this up with, this whole attack dog syndrome that I've seen going around Twitter the last few years, that's got to stop too. I know some people don't agree with me, but Twitter is already a contentious place. And every day I get a new message about, oh, you want me to jump in and collect my cousins and stuff? No, I just want to talk about our day. We shouldn't go on planning to battle these people. They're ignorant. They're idiots. And they just want us angry. So I want less people coming at me sideways talking about, hey, who do I got to fight for you? No, you're not my attack dogs. Don't do that. This is not how we should be on here. So that's all, y'all. I know your heart's in the right place. So I don't want people who do that thinking that I'm dogging the core reason why you're doing it. But that shit will burn you out if you're constantly in there just arguing with these ignorant people. And I don't want anybody utilizing your skills for that. And you shouldn't want to utilize your skills for that over and over again. So I really want you to think about that when you're on social media. It's supposed to be a place where we socialize, not a battlegrounds. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I will be back on Tuesday afternoon, maybe Tuesday evening. It depends on the stuff I have going on. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to thank everybody who bought a copy of the Axiom novel. I'm excited about this. I don't promote myself well. I've promoted other things like gaming, but I'm going to promote the heck out of this book because I believe in these characters. I wanted people that don't normally get represented in literary style. I wanted a story that felt like something I could visualize. And I'm just really excited to share this book with y'all. So I thank everybody who has been supporting it, everybody who's sharing it. It's just amazing to me to finally get the story out there. And I am working on another part of the series. So I am just really excited about this. But I am going to get ready to wrap this up, go have some birthday cake and ice cream, and just chill with Greg for a bit. And thank you so much for that, honey. I also made Beans a moderator. And I was thinking, some of you are in the chat constantly. If you are interested in being a moderator and you're a regular, please let me know because I could definitely use some extra eyes as the chat starts to fill up. So I appreciate that, Terry. Thank you. I'm going to get to that right now. And yes, gem time, dear. But while he's doing that, I am going to work on this because I really appreciate that, Terry. I could really use some extra moderators, so... Old lady there. Jim is my name, no one else is the same. Jim is my name. Our songs are bitter, All right, y'all. I will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in.